You are not hungry. You just think you are. Somewhere in your brain, a 2 million-year-old survival system is quietly running your life. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but tonight it will walk you straight to the fridge. You'll open it, you'll scan the shelves, and you'll already know exactly what you're hunting for, even if you can't name it yet. Something salty, something fatty, something sweet. You'll call it a craving, a random impulse, nothing more. But the real answer is far stranger. That pull you feel isn't random at all. It's a signal sent from a part of your brain that's over 2 million years old. It doesn't know about supermarkets. It doesn't know about refrigeration. It only knows one thing: find calories before they disappear. To understand why you eat the way you do, you have to go back, not to your grandparents, not to your great-great-grandparents, back to a version of your species that didn't look like you, didn't cook like you, and didn't even eat like you'd expect. For most of human history, there was no such thing as a fixed diet. Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer groups have found something surprising. Diets varied wildly by region. Some groups got most of their calories from meat and fat. Others relied almost entirely on plants, tubers, and insects. There was no single ancestral diet. There were hundreds of them, shaped entirely by geography. That alone breaks the myth you've probably heard. The idea of one perfect ancient human diet? It never existed. What did exist was flexibility. Your ancestors weren't specialists. They were generalists, built to eat almost anything that wouldn't kill them. But flexibility came with a catch. Food was never guaranteed. A bad season could mean weeks without meat. A drought could wipe out the plants a group depended on. Your ancestors lived under constant caloric uncertainty, and bodies that evolved under uncertainty develop a very specific kind of programming. They learn to crave density, fat, sugar, salt. These aren't modern inventions of junk food companies. They're ancient survival signals. Fat meant an entire day's energy in a small package. Sugar, found mostly in ripe fruit, meant quick energy and often signaled the fruit was safe to eat. Salt regulated fluid balance in a body that sweated constantly while walking, running, and hunting for miles. Your brain didn't evolve to resist these things. It evolved to chase them. Here's where the story gets stranger. Primatologist Katharine Milton spent years studying the diets of wild primates compared to early humans. Her research pointed to something crucial. Human brains are extraordinarily expensive to run. They consume roughly 20% of your body's total energy, despite being a small fraction of your total mass. No other primate spends anywhere close to that much. So how did a struggling mid-sized primate afford to build the most energy-hungry organ in the animal kingdom? The answer isn't willpower, it's cooking. Biologist Richard Wrangham proposed what's now called the cooking hypothesis. His research suggests that once early humans began applying heat to food, something changed permanently. Cooking breaks down tough plant fibers and proteins before they even reach your stomach. It essentially pre-digests food, releasing more usable calories from the same amount of material. Suddenly, a smaller gut could extract more energy, and that spared energy didn't disappear. It got redirected, fueling the growth of a brain that would eventually ask questions like the one you're asking right now. Cooking wasn't just about taste, it was a caloric revolution. Some researchers argue it's the single event that made the modern human brain possible. Think about that for a second. The stove in your kitchen traces its purpose back to a discovery that rewired your entire species. But cooking wasn't the only shift. Meat mattered too, and not in the simple way you might imagine. Fossil evidence shows cut marks on animal bones dating back over 3 million years, long before modern humans existed. Early hominins weren't necessarily fearsome hunters. Many researchers believe they were scavengers first, following predators, waiting for a kill, then rushing in for the leftovers. Bone marrow, rich in fat, was often the real prize. Cracking open a bone that lions and hyenas had ignored gave access to a calorie source almost no other scavenger could reach. It's not a glamorous origin story, but it's an honest one. Over time, as tools improved and cooperation increased, Hunting became more deliberate. Meat, along with fat and marrow, became a dense, reliable calorie source in a world where reliability was rare. This is where a modern myth needs correcting. Nutrition scientist Loren Cordain popularized the idea of the paleo diet in the early 2000s, framing it as a return to how ancient humans supposedly ate. But most anthropologists agree the real picture is messier and far more interesting than any modern diet plan. There was no universal macronutrient split, no single ratio of meat to plants. Your ancestors ate whatever their specific environment offered, and their bodies adapted to extract the most from it. What stayed consistent wasn't the menu, it was the psychology behind it. Seek dense calories. Never assume the next meal is guaranteed. Store fat when it's available because scarcity always returns. Now bring that programming into your world, a world where scarcity almost never returns, where a grocery store sits minutes from your home, stocked with more calories than your ancestors saw in a lifetime. Your body doesn't know the difference. It still runs the old software. It still treats a bag of chips like a rare, precious discovery because for most of your evolutionary history, calorie-dense food actually was rare. That's not a personal failure. That's a mismatch between an ancient brain and a modern environment it was never built to navigate. There's a term researchers use for this: evolutionary mismatch. Your senses, your cravings, your reward systems, all calibrated for a world of scarcity, now operating inside a world of abundance. The wiring hasn't caught up. It may not for a very long time. Understanding this doesn't hand you a diet plan. It hands you something more useful. Context. The next time a craving hits hard and fast, you're not weak. You're ancient. Your running instincts built for a world that assumed you might not eat again for days. Your ancestors didn't count calories. They didn't fear fat or sugar. They chased them because chasing them kept their brains growing and their bodies moving. You inherited that chase. You just live in a world that finally caught up to it. And so tonight, when you open the fridge and scan the shelves for something salty, something fatty, something sweet, remember what's actually happening. You're not just hungry, you're listening to 2 million years of survival, still speaking through a body that never got the memo that the search is finally over.